Hello, welcome to Access. I'm Rob. Joining us today is Ash.
Hello.
Today we're talking about Returnal.
I am so excited to be talking about Returnal.
I'm massively excited about it. It's coming out on April the 30th.
Yep.
In this video, just so viewers, you're aware what we're going to be talking about and covering in this video, we're only going to be talking about and showing you footage from the first two biomes of the game. And biome is what Returnal calls levels, basically. So the first two areas of the game, that's what we're going to be showing. In terms of the story, we're not going to be really showing you anything that you won't already know if you've been following the game up until now. But of course, if you want to go in completely blind, and that's totally understandable, don't watch this video. So we're going to be talking, Ash, about 7 things that we love about the game. In particular, sort of the sci-fi stuff, because I think you and I are both big fans of sci-fi, and in particular the type of sci-fi that Returnal does. I just love it. I love it so much. And the first thing I want to talk about is a very simple thing, but it's the UI design of it. I love this kind of chunky 70s analog UI design when you're in your ship and you're looking at the computer and you're looking at your stats, and just the way it loads up and boots up, and it's got that sort of scan line, old tech feel about it.
It's so satisfying. Just looking at it all, that colour green that's so reminiscent of just sci-fi across the board, that like potent acid green, and that it's in everything and in all of your tech. And when you scan stuff, the satisfying little hologram building of the scanner, it's like that retro future vibe it just works so well. It's just so satisfying to see.
I know. I don't know what it is about that. And like you said about whenever you scan something in the game, I could just scan stuff in Returnal forever. I get excited whenever I find a new item, because like, I can hold triangle and it's going to do
What's
it makes a thing in this CRT scanline hologram form, and I love the way it looks. It's just
it's beautiful. It's like that. It's kind of got that kind of like maximalist, like loads of buttons and scanners and bits and pieces, kind of from that era of sci-fi that you're talking about. Whereas I feel like now we kind of just see everything. It's kind of like a black screen, isn't it? It's all very simple and smooth and touch screens. Whereas the older vibe with all these different bits and pieces and many different things you can fiddle with, it just feels so much more like kinetic and dynamic.
You feel it, don't you? Like you feel the tech. Like there's a real tactile feel to it, like when Celine is in the Helios, that's the ship, and she's like pressing all the buttons and the dials and pulling levers, and that sort of feeds into the tech you have in the game, like your weapons. The haptic feedback on it is amazing. Like I don't know if I'm sure you have noticed, but when you've got alternate fire, once you've used it, it goes on a cooldown and it slowly fills up, and it makes this really satisfying noise in the background as it's filling up. And it's like, and when it's ready, it does this really satisfying clink, and you get this amazing noise. And your controller, the haptic feedback of your alternate fire being ready,
goes wild.
Like chunk, and you can feel it, and it's so good. You've got to try it. You've got to try it.
It's great. It feels like you have these weapons. Like you feel like you could proper whack someone with it. Like it's just again, it's so satisfying. Everything about just the look and the feel, just to begin with, it's all just there straight away. And then you have this wonderful story and meshing of all of Returnal's fun things into this super satisfying base. But yeah, I just agree wholeheartedly. Basically, it's lovely.
It's going to be a video of us agreeing, I think. The second thing I'm hoping we're going to agree on is the setting, the planet of Atropos, which is where Celine crash lands.
I've crashed on Atropos.
I just love this kind of mysterious, enigmatic, kind of scary type of sci-fi. No one knows what's going on. I'm desperate to find out what is going on this planet, what happened on the planet before, and it's this the ruins of an old alien civilization are there. There are sort of you discover the petrified corpses of whatever alien race lived there before. They've left behind these strange artifacts, and there are these hostile creatures that you have to fight, and it sets your imagination just going.
This planet of strange creatures, they're all like perfectly alien as well. Like that's a weird comment to make, but they feel like perfectly alien, like they're as in just extraterrestrial. They look so strange and inhuman, but there are parts of them that look kind of human. Like, you know, like I always refer to the tentacly, the first monster you see. I always refer to them as the space dogs when I see them, because they're like, yeah, they're so similar but so dissimilar at the same time. That's what the whole planet is like. It's like this tangled forest that you're in to begin with, or the dusty red desert that you go to.
And point number 3, Ash, is something that you've noticed quite a lot. Talking about that, the weirdness of the planet juxtaposed with. Well, I'll let you talk about this because I think this is amazing.
That can't be here.
Well, it's just like the juxtaposition of like a warm family home, that the whole, it's very like, you know, a farmer house with its like wooden slats. It's it's something you'd see just very normally walking around in the countryside, and then it's stuck in the middle of an alien planet and has that uncanny valley juxtaposition between the two. But it's such a sci-fi trope. Like if you think of Superman or Interstellar or even like Love, Death and Robots, like you see these farm homes, these warm inviting places that you think of cookies baking on the side that are so lovely, and then they've stuck it in the middle of this planet that's trying to kill you at every turn and changing and consuming you as it like spits you out in different things all over again. And it's just that juxtaposition is just, it's so good. The known and the unknown, it's balanced so well. It makes you want to look at everything, and it like tinges it with that like perfect level of horror and terror, but not so much as to make it scary. It just makes you feel a little uncomfortable and want to like explore more, and it's just really good. It's just really good. It's the perfect knife edge between everything. It manages to balance so many things that are in opposition, and you feel that the whole way through.
It sort of grounds you emotionally as well, doesn't it? And gives you sort of it lets you relate to Celine. Yeah. We should mention obviously Celine throughout the game, and whenever you die, occasionally, it's different every time, but you'll get like a flash maybe of this house. She keeps having visions of this house, and you can find the house and explore it, and it's got sort of like artifacts and photographs of her. So the implication, I guess, is that this is her house, but she doesn't seem to remember anything about it or why she's left. And it's such an intriguing story, and like you say, that juxtaposition of the known and the familiar with the cosmic and the terrifying. It's
just so well made. That it's got the whole Alien as like a film was obviously, it took all of the haunted house tropes and put them on a spaceship and made it different that way, whereas this feels like it's taken inspiration from that with those 70s influences and the alien vibe and kind of painted it across a whole planet instead. So it's like a haunted house, but a whole planet that is doing this to you, that changes and shifts. Planet. Yeah, it's just amazing because you've got all these things that relate to Celine that are familiar and known again, and then you're on this unknown planet, but it's just the way it moves and like rebuilds itself as if you're in like a labyrinth that's very similar to all of the haunted house stuff. Yeah. That has all these memories of things, both a distant civilization as well as the one that we all know and have experienced, you know, like a farmhouse.
This leads neatly on to what we want to talk about in the next point, which is how the mechanics of the game, if you've been following Returnal, I'm sure you know it is a roguelike in that you push forward, you die, and you start at the beginning every time. And the planet is also procedurally generated, so every time you start a new cycle, you're not going to experience the exact same level as before. Mechanically, that's something we are familiar with, but the way that Returnal takes those mechanics and sort of storifies. I don't think storify is a word. I've just made it a word.
But it's a word now.
It weaves the narrative into these mechanics so that these mechanics exist within the story itself. So you were mentioning there like the haunted house type feel of this mysterious place that keeps changing and rebuilding itself every time you experience it. Yeah. That's like the procedural generation at work. Like the procedural generation makes sense within the story, and also the endless cycle of lives that Celine is trapped in. Yeah. We don't know why that's happening, but we know that it is a part of the story. So you can find, I mean, the first time I found my own corpse in the game.
Oh, yeah.
I have found a deceased Astro Scout here. Checking identification on helmet. It's...
Oh, that when she turns the helmet over and she sees that it's got her name on it, that feeling was that spike of shock.
Yeah.
And this is how also another mechanic is that online mechanic where you can find the corpses of other players, and you can either scavenge them and take their equipment, or you can try and avenge them. And
difficult.
Very difficult, but worth doing because you get lots of ether for it. But anyway, the point is the way that the game takes these things, that it could have just left them unexplained and say, hey, this is how the game works. But it doesn't do that. It makes them all part of this amazingly intriguing story that you're experiencing. And for me, it just makes the story even more fascinating. Like, I'm talking about it now and I'm just desperate to go back in and give it another cycle, give it another go to see what else I can find out.
It's so purposeful. Everything in it means something. Like the way you go through and kind of get different traversal options and kind of look at the technology from this race of beings that came before. It all ties into the gameplay mechanics. Everything's there for a reason. It's like you find something new, it's because you've discovered it off of a creature.
Discovered xenotype technology on the corpse of a sentient.
It's not because the game's just handing it to you. Everything feels like you've earned it as well. Like finding your corpse and finding these other scouts. Everything feels like you're very in control in this out of control space. It's done very well. It feels so smooth and integrated.
Talking about things that you find, that leads into point number 5, which I think is one of yours, Ash, which you've noticed sort of the binary choice morality system of everything in the game that Celine can equip or encounter.
It's just more juxtaposition. I'm just loving the whole it's one or the other, baby. But like there's pros and cons to everything in Returnal. Everything that happens, there's a good and a bad point, and you have to weigh it up very carefully each time. So there's these things called parasites.
Encountered a small life form.
Which are just very cute little wiggly.
Cute.
They are so cute. They look like the mimics from Prey, or like the monster from
They're not
Life.
cute.
They're so cute.
The mimics from Prey are the most uncute things.
They're so sweet. They're just little blobs.
God.
I love the parasites. Every time I see one, I'm like, slap that on. But you're supposed to really weigh up the pros and cons between them. A parasite will give you like a buff.
Somehow, it's strengthening and weakening my suit.
But if it, like one, for example, will give you a buff, and then if it falls off or becomes used and detaches, you'll get a suit malfunction. So you have to think whether that buff is worth it for the amount of time that you're going to have the parasite on you. There's this thing called malignance, which is all over different items throughout Returnal. And there's these thing called malignant chests, for example. So you can open a chest, but it might give you a suit malfunction in the process because it's covered in this orange. It's covered in this purple goo that's, full of nastiness, hence the name Malignance. So it's always a constant good and bad, and it mixes them up to make like a grey shade, so you're always getting both all the time, whereas obviously lots of sci-fi makes you want to choose like, the good guy or the badass, whereas this is like takes that in a different direction where it's all the goods and bads of surviving on an alien planet that you have to try and balance with your gameplay and how you want your Celine to run through the planet.
Talking of the parasites, this leads into point number 6, which is and we alluded to this earlier about how everything on Atropos it feels alive. And point number 6 is specifically about the music, which I think is amazing. It's a very subdued score that sort of pulses away in the background as you play the game, and it reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you've seen the movie Annihilation with Natalie Portman.
Yes,
absolutely loved it. I don't want to get too sort of overly poetic here, but the music feels like the breathing in and out of this almost like an unknowable creature. It's like it feels like something's watching you. It feels like the game is pulsing. That's what the music to me sounds like. It sounds organic and alive.
Yeah.
Lots of the things you find in the game, like the parasites, it feels like you're being watched all the time when you're playing Returnal, and it's unsettling, but also amazing at the same time.
Everything is watching you is why it feels like that, though. The music perfectly reflects seeing all of these massive abandoned statues that look down on you.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they'll like have like glowing eyes and stuff as well, so you're looking at them going, ooh, that's watching me. There's like, and then the creatures that appear like out of nowhere. It's like, oh, okay, they've seen you, they've sensed you, you're there. Everything is watching you and interacting with you and kind of sizing you up, or it very much feels like that. And then all of these flashbacks to this, well, I say flashbacks, flashes of is what I mean, the crash when you go in your Returnal loop. There's this tentacly thing with these glowing red eyes that just looks at you, it just fills up the screen, and that, knowing that that's there, it just adds that other layer of feeling watched, feeling pursued, feeling inside of this organic life form that's doing all these different things around you. Like, it's the atmosphere is second to none. It's amazing. And this monster, I love this monster. I have no idea what it is or what it's doing. every time I see it, I'm like, what's it doing there? What's going to happen? Why do I keep seeing it in the crash? But yeah, it's very like Lovecraft, Cthulhu, that whole cosmic horror done right. It's not pushed too far. It's just, you get all these hints of things. You get the tentacles, you get these massive things. Like,
point number 7, I like this, Ash. This is this is my favourite thing you said about it. I just like the way Celine runs.
I just love it. It's so good. I just love being able to go fast. I just love going fast, just running around. Like, you can stop and take a look at all of the beautiful scenery and such well crafted, atmospheric, deeply uncomfortable stuff. Or you can just absolutely run all the way through. If you're having trouble on a loop, you can just run all the way through all the gates and get to where you were before. I like that they've done that as a mechanic. It's just, you can run free, you can run as fast as you want, you can sprint, you can dash, you can just go. And it's another very satisfying thing. Like, you've got the big heavy thunk of your alt fire, and you've got Celine going, "Wah, aliens!" as she just absolutely hammers it past everything. And I just really find it very satisfying.
It's definitely the kind of thing that when you get really good at it, because when you first play Returnal, you're probably going to suck a bit, like, until you get the feel of how Celine handles, but very soon you will pick it up, and when you do, there'll be situations where you do a fight and it's big and there's loads of aliens coming at you and you're jumping and you're dashing through their fire. When you dash, you're sort of invulnerable, by the way, we should say. It's a great way to dodge through enemy fire and stuff, and you'll take them all down and you'll be like, oh, you catch your breath and you're just like, that was amazing.
Yeah
Because first and foremost, this is an action game on top of all the stuff we've been talking about, the sci-fi elements, and it's so...
I feel like we haven't mentioned the action as much as everything else that ties into it, because the gameplay is just so solid. The little like balls of energy that everything fires in like bullet hell simulation sort of feel as well, and you are going to dash through them and jump around and go as fast as possible, even if you end up in the mouth of some horrible beast, as I always do. I'm no good at it at the moment, but as you keep going, you get better and better, you pick up better stuff, your loops get stronger, you get more things. And like, when you get through a really rough patch and have picked up loads of stuff and you're all decked out like, oh, I'm Celine, I'm great.
It's always a bit different as well. Like, every time you start a new cycle, it feels like I'm not thinking, oh god, I've got to get through here again. I'm more thinking, what am I going to discover this time? Because it always feels like there's something new that you find. Like, I found something on like the second cycle that I have not seen again since, and it was just like this big, like this massive sphere just like suspended in the air, and I was like, what the hell is that? And I've not seen it again. And
that was the first thing that came up on mine. Like, it was my first cycle. I went in and I was like, oh, okay, this is strange. And then it's like cropped up in other different places as well. Like, I love that we can talk about it and have completely different experiences for the way things have popped up, how often they come up, the different elements. Like, you'll have seen loads of stuff that I haven't, and I'll have seen things that you haven't. Like, I think I mentioned in the tentacle monster, you were like, what tentacle monster?
Yeah, I know. Like, I hadn't seen the tentacle monster. Like, the thing I was fixating on was you get little flashes of that house. Like, that house is the thing to me, and that's the thing I'm noticing. And you're like, No, there's a monster with red eyes. I'm like, is there? And I'm going
It might
back.
just be because I've died so much is the difference. You've got like a couple of deaths. You're like, oh yeah, it's just the house.
I've died plenty of times. I think we should leave it there because I just want to go back and play some more. We are going to have, hopefully next week, another Returnal video which maybe looks a bit deeper at the gameplay of it and how it works and how it feels to play. Whereas today, Ash and I we're just excited about those sci-fi vibes.
A little Returnal poetry.
Yes. Oh, I honestly, I'm in love with this game so much. I really am.
It's amazing. It's so good. It feels like, just to kind of cap it all off, it feels like the most PS5-y PS5 game because it takes such advantage of all of the best parts of it. Like, it looks amazing. The haptic feedback is amazing.
We've not even mentioned like when you teleport, like the particle effects on that. My God, it's like Celine is pulled apart at an atomic level and then reassembled somewhere else. Hopefully you're watching it on the screen now if I've found some capture of it. It looks and it sounds good as well. The way that she comes back together, like it's like weird and organic and kind of gross but also amazing, like everything in the game. Like
a human zipper. Like it's just it's so instantaneous as well. Like, you die, you get up again. You go into your teleporter, you're shot off again. It just feels like such a behemoth of a game. It's very good. It's very good.
And you can find out just how good for yourself when it comes out on April the 30th. Let us know in the comments if you are going to be picking up Returnal on PS5. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything from the world of PlayStation.